2, 1.
Hello everyone, so this is part 2. I just made the first video and I will try to fit everything in this one. If not, then there'll be a part 3, but now we're going to be moving on to Noah and his ark, because we just went over how I believe that humans were taken onto the ark. Were created in the beginning along with Adam and Eve, because I believe that my Father Yahuwah is never changing, and that if he says that something is wrong later on, he's not going to think it's right at the beginning. And I'm referring to incest because that's what the common teaching is. So now we're going to be looking at Noah's Ark. Excuse my errors, I'm new to using Google Slides, but we'll start the video here. So we have all heard that Noah took 2 of every animals with him, a male and female, and of course there was 8 people supposedly, which is him and his family, but I can tell you this is not true. Based on scripture, we can see that he not only took 7 clean beasts and 2 unclean beasts, and 7 of each flying bird, but he also took other people as well. So then we're going to look at Genesis 6:18 through 21 in order. 1, so Noah and his family. 2, every living thing of all flesh, 2 of each male and female. 3, fowls, which are birds, cattle, and creeping things. 4, food to eat for his family and everything else on the ark. Now we're going to look at Genesis 7:1 through 3. Number 1, Yahuwah said, "Come onto the ark, Noah and his family, and 7 beasts, or clean beasts, and 2 unclean beasts, male and his female. And then 2 flying fowls by 7, male and his female." Now in the complete order of things taken on the ark, a total of 8 different things. So number 1 was Noah and his family. Number 2 was every living thing of all flesh. Number 3 was non-flying birds or fowls. Number 4 was creeping things. Number 5 was food. Number 7 was 6 clean beasts. Number 6 and 7 was 7 clean beasts and 2 unclean beasts. And number 8 was 7 of each flying bird or fowl. Now in Genesis 6:19, we're going to look at the word flesh. According to the Hebrew of the Strong's Concordance, it can mean an extension of the body. It can mean a person. It can mean a piece of a man or anything like that. Now, from what I'm seeing here, it doesn't look anything that has to pertain to an animal. We can see the word flesh most likely means a human, and we can see this because the definition of flesh and beast have 2 different meanings, one referring to a human and the other to an animal. And then when we look at the word beast here, that's mentioned in Genesis 7:1 through 2, the word beast from the Strong's Concordance, number 292, is obviously referring to an animal right here. And when we look at the other definitions that are here, it's for an animal that has 4 feet, a hooved mammal. So the word flesh and beast are 2 different words, and we can see the difference in Genesis 6:19 and in Genesis 7:1 through 2. We see only 2 of each male and female are to go onto the ark in Genesis 6:19, and then in Genesis 7:1 1 through 2, we see 7 clean beasts and 2 unclean beasts are to go onto the ark, so that's different too. And not only that, the word flesh and beast are 2 different words. And it's pretty clear it's referring to humans in Genesis 6:19 and animals, and in Genesis 7:1 through 2. And then you might ask, why are they mentioning birds twice? They're probably just mentioning animals twice too. And the difference here that I see is that in Genesis 6:20 it's talking about non-flying birds, and in Genesis 7:3 it's talking of flying birds. And the reason why I think that is because it clearly says in Genesis 7:3 the birds of the air, and it also has a different order too, because it doesn't mention anything about how many is taken on Genesis 6:20, but it does mention that they're flying birds, and there's to be 7 of them taken so that they can keep offspring alive. So that's different too. And then when you look at Genesis 9:10, another question is it saying, okay, why does it not say every living flesh or every living human when it's talking about all the things that are coming off the ark. And from what I've noticed is it could be a mistranslation, because in the King James Version and the Strong's Concordance Bible it says every living creature, but in the ISR version it says being, and that word being is referring to a human. So it makes more sense that it would be being, because beast and everything else is already mentioned there. So if you look at Genesis 9 through 10, the ISR version, it says, and with every living being that is with you, of the birds, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, every beast of the earth. So I don't know why it would mention living creature when there's already mentioning of all this, and plus I think the ISR is more accurate by saying every living being. And then in 1 Peter 3:20, I've seen people say, well, it says here that only 8 people were saved, and it was talking about Noah's Ark, or Noah and his family. But then if you go on to look at 1 Peter 3:21, it's actually talking about baptism or immersion or something like that. So you got to look at the whole thing instead of just one little verse. Sorry about that. Whoops, let me go back. So then we're going to talk about the Torah before Moses, because Leviticus was after Genesis. Excuse my error right here. So I would like to point out that I noticed that there was also, the Torah was in effect when Noah was around. And you could see this in Genesis 2:1 through 3, when it says that Yahuwah created the 7th day, but he also rested on it, just like he commands us to do. In Genesis 7:1 through 2, there was already a difference between clean and unclean animals. In Genesis 8:20, Noah built a slaughter place to Yahuwah and took every clean beast and every clean bird and offered an offering. So he's already doing sacrifices here, of course, with clean animals. And then if Leviticus is not yet written, how would Noah know what a clean and an unclean animal was? Also, if the Torah was already in effect and Yahuwah, kept the Shabbat, and there was a difference between a clean and an unclean animal, then I honestly don't see him saying that incest is okay if he says that it's wrong in Leviticus 18:9, especially between a brother and a sister. So I honestly don't think Adam's children had incest. Also, Yahuwah never changes in Malachi 3:6. So I believe that what was sin way back then is still sin now and has always been a sin. In Genesis 9:3, I think it's a mistranslation. We see, let's see, from what I've read, it says every creeping creature that lives is food for you. That's what he told Noah when he got off the thing. But what is a creepy creature? According to the Strongs, it's like a reptile. It could be a mouse or something that he says is not clean to you in Leviticus 11:29 through 30. So I don't understand, why it would say that. Here's what it looks like in the ISR version. Every creeping creature that lives with you is food for you. I have given you all, as I give the green plants. But do not eat flesh with its life, its blood, but only your blood for your lives I require. From the hand of every beast I require it, and from the hand of man, from the hand of every man's brother I require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood is shed. For in the image of Elohim has he made man. As for you, be fruitful and increase, bring forth teemingly in the earth, increase in it. So my conclusion is based on the way that Genesis 9:3 through 7 looks. I honestly think that it should have said that, because of that word flesh there that we see again, which is pertaining to a person, that he's possibly telling Noah, don't eat people, but eat animals. And of course, there's that word flesh again. And then in Genesis 9:3 is the same that we've seen earlier, referred to as a person, like I said. And I know it sounds kind of extreme, but in the book of Enoch, chapter 7, the fallen angels had offspring, and they got to the point where they were eating people and each other. So just imagine the stuff that Noah's seen in that time, including the other people. So